writer, censoring from within and from without. As I understand this subject for panel discussion, we being writers, we have some kind of social responsibility. We live in society, in part of a society, and naturally we have the kind of responsibility as writers. So, while writing, knowing pretty well, there may be certain things which may hurt some sections of society. So what we will do is, sometimes even not being aware, we censor ourselves. During the act of writing itself, we will censor what to write, what not to write. If we write, how we can write, in what way we can write. These are the questions we face while writing seriously. And there may be other things, that is, some social issues which may write about. And while writing, we may not be aware of the repercussions. Yet, we know pretty well, there are so many instances that writers are trying to be suppressed for writing certain issues. So these are problems we writers face. I think this is, as I understand, this is the issue we are going to debate upon today. As you know very well, the suppression of literature is very old. I think it is as old as writing itself. There are many instances. There were writers, right from the days of Virgil. They tried to suppress their works. In the case of Virgil, he died while editing an Aeneid. So he left instructions to burn his manuscript. But at the time, there was King Augustus, who was quite benevolent, and he overruled his wishes, and he made the whole book published. Almost 2 millennium later, we had Kafka, who informed his executor, Max Brod, to burn all his manuscripts. Max Brod did not do that. With the result, 20th century literature, as we know, took a radically different turn. We have many instances like that. The classic case is Gogol, Russia. He wrote his most famous novel, Dead Souls, and he wanted to write. In fact, he was writing the second part of that. And then he had a feeling that his work would certainly save the soul of Russia. One priest took him in and told him, anything that is not connected with the Russian Orthodox Church is sinful. So Gogol couldn't reconcile his faith with his creativity. Then he burnt it, the manuscript. This is one kind of censorship, maybe from within. But there are many other instances where society at large is in some form or the other against writers. I can give one recent example. Some 10 or 15 years back, a leading daily called Deccan Herald in Bangalore published a story called Muhammad the Idiot. In the story, Muhammad was a character. He had not the prophet. Yet some politicians, some readers, some politicians, supported by some fundamentalists, incited mobs which resulted in 4 deaths and several injured. And we know the case of Salman Rushdie. I did not explain it. And the recent one is of Perumal Murugan, a Tamil writer, a well-known writer at that. And he wrote that particular novel some 5 years back. And he was attacked. And his attackers told that it's nothing but blasphemy. So these are instances. So while writing, keeping all these instances in mind and always aware of what we are writing, how we are writing, these are the questions we face while writing. We don't know how to negotiate with this problem. I mean, in the case of poetry, generally speaks through images. They are quite safe. But that is not the case with fiction writers, short fiction writer or fiction writers. We are not as safe as poets. So I think we have to find ways to write about what we stand by, what we believe in. So we have to find. There may be several modes of writing. These are some of the things we are going to discuss. With these opening remarks, I would like to ask Sania first about her views on this.
Good morning. As Divakar said, I would just like to say some things about what I think about this topic. See, I'm a fiction writer. So I look at it, narrator, as is supposed to narrate. I have a story to say. What is that story? That story is something I might have experienced, I might have read, I might have thought. It is a construct. So I'm going to say it. So that is the narrator. So how do I say it? See, sometimes I know the whole process of my writing. Being a fiction writer, I write stories and novels. Sometimes you don't know why you are writing. You don't know how you are writing. So there is some kind of a choice to make. So I choose A and I don't choose B. No one has a right to ask me why you write this. No one has a right to ask me why your character has behaved this way. Because that is something I have seen that character. Actually, characters come to me. There is a story to say. So I see the characters. I know what they are thinking. I know what they are feeling. And that doesn't mean each and every character is me, myself, author. It's not so. But through them, I am telling you a story. Sometimes the stories are possible. Sometimes they are improbable. Sometimes they are different. Sometimes they are totally on the different way than what readers are used to experience. In fact, that is the whole goal of the literature, to open up the world which is unknown to you, to open up the world of thinking which is not known, not experienced, but still as if you get into that world and as if you experience the whole thing. So as a writer, since it's a construct, it's the idea, I need to be free to say whatever I want to say. So what is that inquisitor inside me? That is my choice. I think somewhere I choose. For example, I write in a particular genre, particular way I select my characters. It comes and there is a struggle always. It's not that I decide I will write only this. Particularly when I write about relationship, I write about men and women. There can be a lot of things in that. There can be sexual intonation. There can be so-called relationships which are not perhaps accepted by the society. But I need to be free to think about it. I need to be free to write about it. But that perhaps some inquisitor inside me tells me this is necessary to write, perhaps that is not necessary as of now. And that struggle goes on within me all the time as I grow in my writing. So maybe 20 years back I wrote something else, now I'll write something else. So I feel that inquisitor within is something which makes you feel you need to make a choice. And that choice is mine, and I don't want anyone to tell me, you make this choice. I want myself to be free to make that choice. And that freedom, when will that freedom come about? If I'm living in a free society, when I know that what I write carries something. So there it comes about the censorship without. See, what is that censorship without? Who are the people who are telling me what I should write? And why are they so afraid of the word? In fact, I find at that time the word is so important. Why word is so important? Why the idea is so important? Because word carries the idea. Idea carries the thinking. And thinking can make people change. So it is the change which somebody is afraid of. And who are those people afraid of? Maybe some authority, maybe some societal authority, maybe government. I don't know. I mean, we know, all of us, there are these kind of things. So that is the censorship without. We need to figure out how do we fight. Just as I don't think we have answers to all that. So my first struggle would be to figure out who is this inquisitor within me, what it is telling me, what I need to write. Is there something, some fear in me? Is there some anxiety in me? Then I need to figure that out. Then I need to struggle with it, and I evolve through it. And if there is a censorship outside, again then, of course, collectively we need to figure out, what is this? Who are the people? Why they are opposing our ideas? Why they are opposing our changes? And that's what I hope we will discuss today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think what Sonia said is, we have to choose the words ultimately. Have to, and we have to heed the inner voice as writers we have. But there are some problems. For example, in my case, I would like to tell one. So, as a Hindu writer, I cannot depict or delineate a wicked Muslim character. That is the same case in Kannada. A Muslim writer cannot create a Hindu character who happens to be very wicked. We have to be politically correct in order to save our skins. This is a state of affairs. So, in such a situation, as a writer, what I have to do is, if at all I have to write about a Muslim character, I have to make some kind of, what you might call, either I have to avoid writing about him or write him as a most benevolent, good-hearted, always ready to help the persons of different faiths. Like that, I have to create a fantastic character who is eternally good. So that is the thing. So, even given such a situation, how we writers react to the question. Now, I want Mr. Apurva to shed some light on this problem.
Thank you, Dibakar. The very coinage of the term, the narrator versus inquisitor, it came from the first coinage was from the famous story of Edgar Allan Poe, who wrote the narrator and the inquisitor story. Inquisitor in this case was the Spanish inquisitors. The protagonist of the story was condemned to death, and he was condemned to a cell without light and food. And this story was named as The Pit and the Pendulum. And it started in those days only. It is going on right now also. But thing is that it is a very vast issue. It is the gamut of the issue is so vast that it is not. We are not able to cater to it as a simple panel discussion. It goes a very long way. To me, morality should not be the basis of a government, but fairness and justice is. It should be. So we are. Some points are there against this point also, because as a nation, as reader, as viewers, we are not matured enough to judge whether what we should read or what we shouldn't, what we should view or why we shouldn't. As a nation, we are not matured enough. Sometimes I feel, but having said this, having said this, but we should respect the freedom of press, freedom of speech, which is the basic right. Freedom of knowledge, the right to knowledge is a basic right of our citizens. And I can cite some examples also. I can cite some example. In Assam, one Aminur Rahman he wrote an article depicting Muhammad, not in a very bad way, but reasonably well he wrote, but there was a fatwa against him by the Muslim clerics then. But somehow he was rescued by the growth of public opinion followed by. And in your case also, there is P. Murugan's story. P. Murugan's story, you know it well. He wrote a novel based on some Hindu traditional faiths. It was a fictional novel set centuries back. But only he declared his own obituary, rather, in the Facebook. He proclaimed his own obituary as a writer, because he was opposed to by Hindu and some caste-based forces, that you should not write this one. This is against the Hindu traditional faiths. This is not good. You are not to write that. And so many books are being banned in India. Leave aside other books, satanic verses. India was the second, following Singapore, to ban this book. India was second. But it was based on some political considerations. It should not be. And some other, the dramas also was banned. Me Nathuram Boltoy in 2004. Then Final Solution based on riots in Gujarat. That was also banned. Then Christ I have just forgotten. That was also banned. This is not a new story. Government has got the machinery, the whole machinery to impose upon bans, but we are the writers. We will have to revolt against government. We have the right to write whatever we feel like. But yes, with the right, their any nonsense, rather. Fashionable nonsense, I should say. We cannot write any fashionable nonsense in the name of that right to write, the right to knowledge. And we have got immense responsibility as a writer.
Thank you, Apurva. Yes, we have some social responsibility and we cannot write something nonsense and all. Okay, every writer, if he writes something, it has some social purpose. To that extent, we can accept it. Okay. If a work incites some kind of conflict, then we have to think twice. In the sense, okay, I am writing about social reforms in the society, about caste system, about so many things which we consider evil in the long run. If such writing is read by mere readers, there is no problem at all. If that writing is confronted by an authority, maybe governmental authority or some fundamentalist, then the problem comes. If a government bans the book, I prefer getting my book banned, because to that extent I will become a little famous. We writers, we feel it. But the thing is, in certain cases, it doesn't end there. There will be physical violence against the writers or his followers. So in such a case, we have to think twice. If my writing, my story or a novel, ultimately, because of its subject or its treatment, makes some kind of conflict in society which may result in certain deaths, then in what way am I morally responsible, and in what way I can defend my work? This is a question. My work, if it incites violence in the society, in what way I can defend the work? This is my question. I think Mr. Menon will answer.
Thank you, Mr. Devaga. With the permission of the chair, I will stray from the subject for a moment to make a brief comment. I studied journalism in the Institute of Mass Communication in Delhi long time ago. When I was studying there, one point I made was to share my room with somebody not from my state. And twice, I had the good fortune to stay with two friends from Manipur. They are my friends to this day. See that with that, you share experiences, you share culture, and this is the way to bring the country together. And this is happening on a larger scale now. And this is at another occasion where I'm very glad to see a lot of writers from other parts of India, particularly the Northeast. And it's a very commendable effort. And coming back to the subject, see, I'm a journalist. I have been a journalist for a long time. And as a journalist and almost a writer is not fully a writer most of the time. But as a journalist, we face this question on a daily basis. Like whenever we write something, is it objective? Because what I'm writing, it should not be based on or influenced by my prejudices or the limited vision that I have. I have to be very careful in writing or reporting about what others say. So you can be subjective in many different ways. You can pretend to be objective, but you can be subjective by selectively quoting. This happens quite often. And this was all foremost in my mind when I wrote my book, the Desert Hunt, when I was in Dubai. And the Middle East is a very sensitive place. There we have a lot of Indians there. The Indians they make a lot of money there, but lots of them, they face a lot of problems also. Since I have been reporting about their plight day in and day out for a long time, this naturally influences my thinking, my approach to the people there. So when I first wrote the draft, and the book is about, I'm not trying to publicize my book, I'm just giving the brief, about Al-Qaeda trying to get a suicide nuke design from a discredited Pakistani agent. This is the theme. But this happens in Dubai. And it pans out in Iran, in Afghanistan, in Pakistan and India. So after I wrote my first draft, when I went through it again, then I had to go with a fine comb to see where I have allowed my prejudice, which I had accumulated by my long stay there, in presenting the people or the community there. So that was a very interesting and I don't think it was a painful experience. It was a learning experience. Because when at the same time, I had to also ensure that I'm not writing a PR piece. I'm not writing something to promote Dubai or to promote Middle East. So this is a conflict. But this conflict goes on, like here earlier it was said that we have the right to write. Yes, we have the right to write, but at the same time, we never published the first draft. So without our knowing, we are changing what we wrote. And maybe we are trying to be very objective, not to be objective. We are just trying to say what we want to say. But at the same time, without knowing, I think every good writer will try to remove these small, subtle influences that our prejudices, that have got into our system. This is very important because we are not talking in the air. We are talking about communities. We are talking about people. We are talking about situations. So we can't brush a society by a broad brush because of the behavior of some people. At the same time, we don't have to bail them out. See, this is a very tricky balancing act. It's a tightrope walk. I think that the success of a writer, success is not in terms of selling a book. Success in terms of the pleasure that you get in writing and publishing it is when you think that you have done a good job in this, that I have not done something to promote my prejudices, my ill will, my bad intents, or whatever. At the same time, I am also not doing a PR job. And I'm not trying to do this to please anybody. This is my expression of my my experiences, what I have seen and what I have felt. But in this very volatile society that we live in, we have to be certainly very careful, because it's not black and white. There are a lot of gray areas. Like what we think is right may not be right. There can be another point of view. So I'm not saying, I'm not talking in favor or against, but I'm talking about the need to have a very careful balance in the art of writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manan. As you said, I think writing is a tricky job. It's a tricky balancing act. I do agree with you. That is some of my points. Some of the points actually refers to that only earlier, in the sense. As you know that we are writers, and we are essentially writing for readers. But of late, how to encounter those forces? This is the question. I think readers are quite happy with writers because they are continuously readers. But writers are not affected, or they are not actually attacked by the readers, but some other forces. This is most important. And we are so helpless as writers. And we don't have a backing like Salman Rushdie had, the entire empire of British Empire. He's, that empire is supporting him, and he's quite safe. But we poor writers, coming from Bhasha literatures, we don't have such support. So, how to face this problem of non-readers attacking us? This is my question. Now I pass the buck to Manjari.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah. Hello, everybody. First and foremost, I'd like to just take the lead from what Sania said. I often ask myself, why do I write? I know everybody has something to say. Like that's the reason I write too. But why write? Why the written word? Because according to me, the word is the mother of all expressions. Why don't I paint what I want to say? Why don't I compose music? Why don't I make a film? I can make all these. But when I write, what I'm really doing is I am creating music on paper. I am painting a picture on paper. I am making a film. So I think the word is the mother of all expressions. I think that creativity is a very divine process, and we are very lucky that we have it. And the muse is a very elusive, what would you call it, phenomenon. So when it happens to a lucky few, and we have to be very responsible with it. So if you have it, you kind of hold on to it, write what you want to write, be careful, but write what you want to write and express yourself in the most balanced manner possible, like you said. I think that there are broadly two types of writers. One type is are writers who create for the pure pleasure of creating. So whether it's novels, whether it's stories, plots, characters, anything that they want to create just for the pleasure of it. They may not want to give any social message in it. It could be just pleasure. The other types of writers are those who want to destroy something, and I mean that in a very nice way. They want to destroy orthodox ways of looking at things. They want to destroy established norms which are not positive to society. So those are the other types of writers who are really thinkers. So when these two writers are working on something, I think they have to really take on a very responsible role, because they have this elusive muse in their hands. As far as censorship goes, I think for me personally, I'm a mystery writer, so censorship for me has worked on many levels. The censorship within, like Divakar said, the censorship from society and family, and the censorship also from publishers. So I'm not saying that, I'd like to cite two examples actually for this, which are my own examples. So by being a mystery writer, as it is, I work in a formatted story. There are characters, there's a plot, there's a crime that has happened. Somebody has to solve the crime and, take the story to a conclusive end. So I was writing this novel called The Gypsies at Noel's Retreat. So it was based in France, and it was a young adult novel, and there were many characters in it. Like there was a Russian, there was a German, there was a retired judge, and all these people, and a crime happens there. Now my major thing when I was writing this was, whom should I make the culprit? And this was a very, very, psychological, a subconscious thought in my mind, whom should I make the culprit? In a foreign country, if I make the retired judge, Indian judge, a thing, I would have the lawyers in India banning my book. I had Italian friends, they would say, why did you make an Italian, So this thing, automatically, at some point in my head, I was censoring myself. And this also happened because of familial pressure, societal pressure. Whatever was happening in society was, subconsciously affecting my thinking. So that's one form of censorship. There's another one that I'd like to tell you. I wrote a book, a futuristic fantasy, something for young adults, which happens 100 years from now. And in that, so things that happen now also happen then, but in a very different manner. For example, there is this girl who's 12 years old, and she's physically abused in the book, with no touching. It's all simulations. And when I gave this book to publishers, it was for Young Adult Plus, they all... Now, this was censorship at the publisher level, because they couldn't accept the fact that I had put in a somewhat rape scene in a young adult book. What I was trying to say was that 100 years from now, humans are still humans. The manner might change, the mentality may not. And they wouldn't accept that. They wanted something totally different. So this was also censorship of a different kind. So I feel that whether you like it or not, you're constantly, enacting with censorship at all points. And you have to decide as a writer whether you want to go with it or not, whether you're ready to face the consequences or whatever it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Manjari. But I want to make a point here. There are some advantages of being a writer in English, and there are some disadvantages being a writer in Bhasha. This is my experience I'm telling. If I write about a social evil or a conflict in my language, I'm quite sure of my audience. Who are the people who are going to read my book? And I can also imagine the way they are going to react to my book. If I write in English, it's not exclusively for Kannada readers. It may be readers all over India, maybe in your case all over the world. A problem faced with regard to this so-called censorship from within and without. The problem faced by a Bhasha writer and a problem faced by an English novelist is quite different. Don't you think so?
You have a limited audience, I agree. But there must be Kannada writers who are also English readers.
There may be, but they are always minority. The way Kannada book is read by Kannada people.
So are you saying that regional writers are more censorious than...
I think they are more vulnerable. In the case of Perumal Murugan, quite vulnerable. If somebody had written about the same subject somewhere in Delhi, nobody would have bothered about it. This is my take.
I think most of the times what happens is also sometimes the books that are banned have not even been read.
That's true. That's true. I agree.
So I don't know if that kind of... I don't. Maybe Sanya can talk a bit on this.
Would you like to say something?
I completely agree with Manjiri. In fact, when we talk about censorship, as I said, I'm more interested in the censorship within. That why one chooses to write this and why one doesn't choose to write something else. And I think this language, I do not like that we say one should do this and one should do that. Who are we to tell others? I won't like somebody to tell me that you write this and that. So I think it is a matter of choice. Now choices should have opportunities, and maybe you educate yourself, you grow yourself, and you decide what you want to write. So writers should do this and even others should not do this. I don't think that we ourselves are starting some path of censorship. So that's not right. And another thing is very true, that censorship outside, from whom it is censored, not by readers. It is, and if readers try to say something, we can always explain, we always have answers, or our critics have the answers. Even that, I would say, as a reader, as a writer of fiction, I'm not bound to say why my protagonist behaves in this manner. Well, this is how it is. This is how she is. This is how he is. And I have put it in my word. I am not bound to explain later why this happened and why that happened. Maybe critic can do that. So the people who object, they are always these so-called authorities, who are afraid of the ideas, who are afraid of the thinking. I don't think they are bothered about reading the books. They really know what it is saying. They really understand even what writer is trying to say. They are just afraid of the change. They are afraid of their own power being threatened. They are insecure people. So how to tackle that is a different matter. But this is what I think, and I completely agree with it.
Would you like to say something?
When you talk about censorship in India, see, if you take it to where I was, like in the Middle East, that's very interesting. Like for instance, in Saudi Arabia, the books are banned only on the basis of the title. There was a novel called A Wahhabi Tale, and this novel was banned because the title had the name Wahhabi in that, because the Wahhabi kings, the tribe, they ruled the country. So they don't get into the nitty-gritty of what is in the book. So they think that, if you ban it right away, then you don't have to read it at all. And I'm not trying to belittle them, but writing is not reading is not one of the virtues of the Arabs. That's my experience. Like in UAE, where I was, there also they keep banning books. There was a very interesting book on Dubai, The Vulnerability of Sexes, and it was written by a British lecturer, Chris Davidson. He was also a consultant and also a lecturer. He taught at the Said University because he was there, so he knew. And these people, the whites, they have better access with the Arabs and all. And perhaps this is the only book which is quite authoritative about the history, about the recent developments, about to mention a connection with us, about Taliban, and when the relation of the UAE and the Arabs with Pakistan, and all that, what I had heard as rumor from different sources, it's all there in black and white. And it's very clear that he has not mentioned any of this to either to smear there with a black brush. It's not for that. It was a very interesting book. It was published by Columbia Press. But that book was banned. And in UAE, you don't get a press release saying that this book has been banned. You will just not find it in any bookstores. That's the way it is. So these type of things are always there in other countries. In India also, in a different way, it is there. Like here we have the government, which certainly can ban books to assuage the feelings of so-called feelings of a community or a group. There are also people and interest groups which will make use of the government. Government may be motivated them, we don't know. There is a person called Dinanath Batra in Delhi. He's very famous, he is 85 years old. He will go through all the books about Hinduism, and if he thinks that there is something which is against, which can hurt, a perceived hurt of Hindu community, he will go to the court. And he does his homework. He is not the guy who will not read the book. He will read the book. And he was able to I think, withdraw from the shelves of Penguin, a book by Wendy Doniger about Hinduism. I don't know whether it is available now. So we had to fight all these forces, because I'm not talking about him as an exception. These type of people are there in all in she was asked to take out a passage, you may think twice, should I take it out or, and deny my book to everybody, or what shall I do? This is something we have to decide. This is our take.
Thank you. What about Apurva?
Keeping in view the freedom of press and freedom of speech, India has the score of 2.5. It is not so bad comparing to China and all, because we have got some sort of freedom. China has got full censorship on internet, and some other communist countries. But the thing is that censorship, it may be official, it may not be official. Some moral police are there keeping an eye on your works. What should you write, what you shouldn't. But finally it is you. You will decide, you will revolt. You can write anything, but yes, that your universal, that inquisitor, that being there inside you, this is the censorship, I think. That inquisitor will censor, it will make your things percolate through that invisible censorship inside you. So that Madhu Rubagan story, that by P. Murugan, what is your target readers? This is important. When you write something, you visualize your target readers. If it is not harmful for those target readers, I don't think it is censorable. A book is unlike cinema. Cinema has got some prompt effect, which is called that hypodermic syringe model. You just inject it directly inside a person's mind, instantly. It has got instant effect. But book has not got that strong appeal in this age of internet and other electronic media. In World War II, Hitler used press. So it should not be the political considerations on which that censorship should be imposed. And writers from all over the world should unite to fight against this sort of imposition. Only 2 or 3 points are there to prevent mass hysteria. Yes, if there is some blasphemy, if there is something written works confronting some religious beliefs, inciting communal harmony, communal rioting, inciting some obscenity, spreading some obscenity in the society, yes, there should be some ground. But as a whole, we should have a free literary world to express our views. For me, that in our state, people are writing, but till now, no banning of books is, except that instance I quoted somewhere before. No banning of book is there, but we should keep our voice strong anytime. We should fight the moral police, so-called unsolicited moral policies. This is my view.
Thank you, Apurva. Now I think we have enough time to go one more round of discussion. I think the subject of this panel discussion has something to do with creativity also, as I understand. Creativity as writers, how we write, what we write. And this refers to that also in the sense. In certain cases, for example, even under Hitler, under Stalin, several Jewish writers, they wrote and survived. They wrote in such a way that no politician or people, the henchmen like Hitler or Stalin, could understand what these writers had written. That means it is a question of changing your. That means the question of changing your mode of expression, changing your mode of writing. This also. So one say there are several modes of writing. Writing something symbolically, writing fantastically, writing very imaginatively, which has nothing to do, direct a link towards what's happening around you. You can write, convey it in a more different way. These are certain modes writers themselves have explored and adopted. Given such a situation, for example, say I want to write something about a burning problem which ultimately incites something in the society, in turn I may be affected. If I foresee such thing, given such a situation, do I feel to change the mode of writing and yet be safe? This is the question I would like to ask Sonia first.
What you say perhaps is true, that some writers have done it perhaps. They have changed or they have camouflaged and written. But it may have its limitations, I feel. Some may do it. We know what happened when actually cartoons are the excellent commentary upon the society. And we know what happened to Charlie Hebdo and such things. So I think it is still, there will be always a constant struggle. And I feel that struggle is very clearly in two parts. What we are talking about fiction writers, it's a different struggle. And what we talk about journalistic writing, it is a different struggle. Journalistic writing and that struggle, that censorship is much more current and it has got many sides to it. And they are, sometimes actually as a reader, I really admire the people who go ahead, write the reports and really pay very high price. And also actually what happens is if there is no freedom, as Salman Rushdie has said, if there is no freedom tomorrow, I cannot write today. So that definitely comes to it, and as you say, maybe it is possible perhaps that to change the format and go ahead, but it will have its limitations. Still, it will be stifling your freedom. And word is very powerful. I agree that films are very powerful, but you know the word carries idea, and the books, even the social reforms which have happened in our country, especially in Maharashtra, and even today we quote the words of Agarkar, Phule, Ambedkar, and they are the ones actually our icons. Even today's difficult times, we can look up at them and say, yes, these are the words, and they spread the ideas, and that's exactly why the authorities are afraid. The words are very, very powerful.
What about Manan? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I talked about journalistic writing only as a beginning. I was actually talking about fiction. The problem with fiction is, books. Like we said, journalism is very ephemeral. It stays only for a day. But tomorrow, that will be Radhi. And even films, some films will last for a long time. Otherwise, films will last a season. But books, till now, books have a lasting influence. Books are read, they go to if you see the procuring pattern, the books go to, India has a very vast reading network and reading culture. We have a vast network of libraries. The books go to the remote villages. It's not as simple as we think. It goes to all schools and universities. We don't know where all a book will go. So I think as a writer, I'm not saying that you have to listen to the voices outside so much as you should listen to the voice within. But we must certainly take it very seriously, to look at what we write and to weigh the consequences, not consequences, the content of what we write, to make sure that it is exactly that we want to say. So this self-censorship, so long as it is there, that is what one has to be careful. Only thing, we should not take it lightly. So writing is very serious business, because books are quoted, books are translated. Sometimes it transcends boundaries. So all this we have to, we don't know. Sometimes when somebody is dead, that time a book will get prominence, and so we don't know about the influence of the book to what extent. Maybe it is read by nobody. Maybe it will be read by millions here and everywhere. So that, if we can remember, then we will have an idea of our responsibility.
Thank you very much. And now I think I'll go to Manjari, because she writes mystery fiction. Mystery fiction, in my view, is a kind of fantastic mode, generally. It says the way an Indian Bhasha writer writes things. But you transcend all those things. Your words internationally, as you mentioned. So for me, it's a great leap towards fantasy, I think. Can you explain this? And why do you do this? Why do you choose to write in a fantastic mode? Because I think you are quite safe compared to all others here.
First and foremost, I'm not writing to be safe. Okay. I'm writing because I have something to say. I've got these huge numbers and numbers of plots which are unraveling in my head. I'm comfortable writing in English, so I write in English. Luckily for me, 2 of my books got published abroad. It was fluke, but it happened. After that, many got rejected in India also. That was also fluke. So I don't think it's in my control at all what I write, what I get published. But ultimately, since you talked about international reach, the books that got published abroad are, they're called The Cosmic Clues and Stellar Signs, and they're about a Pune-based detective who solves cases with the help of astrology, Vedic astrology. So with horoscopes, she solves cases. Now, there I didn't face any problem. But in India, I went for a book launch in Bangalore. There were about 4 people sitting there, and all the 4 people asked me only one question. Talk about whether astrology is scientific or not here. But the whole point of the discussion was that it is a fiction novel. I'm not there to advocate astrology. I'm not there to advocate that murder can be solved through this horoscope. It's a novel. It's got a format. Talk about that. And that's what I also want to talk about when you talk about censorship. Everyone forgets that this is a fictitious novel. It is a writer's creation. He or she may have a message under the guise of fiction. The problem arises when that research or the message gets stronger than the fictitious element in it, and when it strikes that insecure chord in society. I think that is when the problem arises, and the writer has to be very careful in disguising this. That is the only way he can get the message across and stop and prevent the book from getting banned. I think that's it.
Thank you. I think you have a valid point. But in the case of our regional language, particularly in the case of Kannada, the problem comes where actually is if a writer, say a fiction writer, writes more sociology into his novel, depicting the religions, the rituals, the way of living, all those things. Then the question comes, writer, whether he is really authentic, whether he is depicting or delineating his characters, or their characters are really realistic in the true sense. That problem is there. In such a situation, a writer may likely to be get attacked because of his wrong depiction. The thing is, another thing, what I was trying to say is, our readers of late, I don't know the reasons why, they have failed to read a novel as a novel, a poem as a poem. Many of our readers, including critics, they have started reading a novel as a sociological treatise. This is where the problem comes up.
So I want to ask you a counter question. What is this compulsion to be real?
Okay, that is the thing.
Please answer that first.
It's compulsion to the... Because we have a literary tradition. See, if a realistic tradition, in Kannada at least, I can say we have 60 to 70 years of realistic writing. And that same mode we have to explore so many things. I want to be different from another writer. So what I will do is, if I come from a particular class, what I will do is, I will give a lot of details about my own community, its own inner cultures, everything, So, for the others, they may read my novel as history or sociology or anthropology, not as novel.
That's because you're trying to keep it as real to society as possible.
Yeah, that is the thing.
But that is your own compulsion.
Yeah.
It's your choice.
It's not choice. But the thing is, there are writers in Kannada, they want to be different. That's the only way you can establish your own voice in your fiction. To be authentic. A Brahmin writer, he knows his rituals and everything. But in the case of another caste writer, he cannot imitate a Brahmin. You know that. This is a problem. He cannot imitate, he cannot give the same details what Brahmin has given.
So are you saying that there is casteism in writing also?
Casteism, you are identified as, even if you don't say that, we have Muslim writers in Kannada. We have women writers.
No, what I'm saying, my question is,
it is there.
Why do you have to write only about your culture? Why does that person only have to write about his culture? Why can't you both write about each other's cultures?
But the thing is, again, the question of authenticity comes there. Authenticity comes.
But that's also where research comes in.
Certainly. That's why I told you, you are quite safe. We writers writing in our languages.
To me, she is not quite safe because fantasy is not... it is rooted...
I don't write fantasy. I write realistic novels based in Pune, about a Pune ring, with Pune locations, with Pune characters. The difference could be that Pune is more advanced. The women are more advanced. Our vision towards the world is different. That could be, of course, different because from top to bottom in India and left to right, we have this variations in culture and tradition and conservatism. So that could vary. But I don't play it safe. I have tackled social issues through mystery because I think mystery genre and it encompasses everything. So it's not playing safe. It's just playing entertaining. What I do is I put it in a format which is entertaining.
That you are playing safe. In my view, you are quite safe. That's what I said. I never said that you are playing safe.
That's all.
The thing is, but we have a tradition of writing. It has happened already, which has developed a sort of readership in Kannada. They don't read. A novel is a novel. They prefer to read so many things into the novel. Reading too much into the novel, not in the novel, into the novel, that's the problem. Yes.
I'll just give you one example. Since you're talking about safe, in one of the novels where the mystery is solved through horoscopes, there's a dowry story where the girl is killed with dowry. It's a dowry attempt on her. So there was some reviewer in Hindu, like I told Shiny, there was a reviewer who left the whole novel aside and she commented only on that dowry thing and said that I am encashing on the dowry system, to get my novel across. So this was also a kind of a censorious comment, whereas it was just a fictitious story. Yeah. So I'm not playing it safe.
I never said. I repeat, you are safe, I said.
Probably Dipakarji, he wanted to tell that as long as you are not vehemently literary activist, then you are partially safe. This is the gist of your instinct. Yes. No, writing in English not safe because I think they are also rooted to the ground. They are writing. No. They don't mean that.
I never meant that.
Yes.
In a fantastic mode, even in mystery fiction, people will not. will not take you to a task for a particular scene or
Writing
anything
writing fables and anecdotes, yes, really safe. If you have got some social message you have to give, you are a literary activist, your life is a bit hard compared to fiction writers. Solely writing the fantasy part of the literature.
Yeah, my question is, in your own experience, Apurva, have you ever thought in a situation, say, that do you feel that you need to change the mode of writing?
No. Time has not arrived in our state that you have to change your mode of writing. Keep you the opposition from the other part. Because she wants to speak? Everyone knows that our state is terrorism infested state. But nowadays terrorism is waning away. It is coming to normalcy, yes. But I have, in my writing career, I have never seen any ban from those ultra organizations. I have written lots of stories against their views. On terrorism, I have written so many stories. But I have never to explain them why I am writing these stories against their views. Maybe in regard to press, in regard to writing and the freedom of a writer, they respect freedom of the writers. Keeping aside that they are resorting to violence, rightly or wrongly, they are feeling that they are subjected to some sort of injustice. This is their view. But they are nowadays alienated from the main society. They are rooted outside. But there is no ban as such from death quarter, from terrorism quarter. I have writing on so many issues, female issues, social issues, but I...
Yeah, personally, all fellow writers, none of us have felt any opposition or attacks on our writings personally. But in the larger instance, this is the question we have been discussing about it. This is the question. There is a kind of inner censorship and there is a kind of outer censorship also. Outer censorship comes out of the society or several groups in the society. Maybe they are fundamentalists or politicians who have nothing to do with the writing itself. This is the question we have been discussing, and we know pretty well there are such issues are prevalent, and we have to find our own ways. And all of us have discussed that being responsible citizens, at the same time being responsible persons in a society, we have certain responsibilities. We cannot write whatever we feel like writing. Okay, this is the thing we have heard. I think we are again the place we started at. We didn't move much further. So, thank you very much. Now we can take some questions from the audience.
That was a very interesting session. there are two questions I would like to ask, and it is addressed to Apurva. Apurva said that in the name of freedom, we can't write fashionable nonsense. May know what you meant by that. That's one question. The second question is, you said that you write on social issues and you also write on female issues. May know what female issues you have written about.
Fashionable nonsense. It is term coined by Jack Derrida. You surely know it. Yes. This is the age of that according to postmodernism, isn't it? There's the date of the author. And you are not the writer. Once you have written it, it is not yours. It is of the society. You can write anything and everything that come to your mind. Fashionable nonsense, yes. I am not in the strict, not telling the word in the strict sense of the coinage of the term. But thing is that you cannot write anything and everything at your peril. You can write it at your peril because you are the only person to save yourself from the forces opposing to you. And about female issues, I don't think females are persons from other, they are coming from Venus or like that. They are existing here only with us. Males and females, I don't see any difference. Still, in some cases, I feel to talk about our state, they have got ample space to develop. They are not seen to be very separate entities from the males. We are equal in our state, to be very precise. Dowry is not there. You will never hear of any dowry death in Assam. But yes, some rapes and other violence, it is there, still there. No society is free of all those evils. I highlight some of the situations that confronted by the females in our state. As far as my capacity only. So many issues I have covered, and this issue is one of those multiple issues.
Good morning. Actually, I have a question that writing something for the purpose of getting famous, or after I came here, I got to know many writers like their books to be banned. That's a way of getting famous. And so, do you think for getting famous, if you are writing, it's a kind of disrespecting the art of writing, or we should write for the pleasure of writing, or it's not like getting famous, it's our pleasure to proceed in that kind of an art?
Okay, I think no. Hello. I think no senior writer writes for pleasure. It's an error. If he feel like writing, he writes. If he has something to say, if he wants to say something, if he wants to interact with the society around him, if he is different, if he wants to convey something fictionally, he will write. In course of time, his book gets banned for various other reasons other than literature, and with the result he becomes famous. He is not the culprit, I suppose. I know. Thank you.
I may just add a little bit here. I think this, see, when we are accepting the freedom of everybody, we can accept that freedom also. Somebody wants to become famous, somebody wants to write for his book to be banned, let him be. So what? There is a place and space for everyone. I think we must remember that. But it's our choice. We make our own choice, what you write for. If somebody else is writing for that, well, go ahead and do that. What's wrong?
Yeah, I can also add to that, to what Sania said. Sometimes, even if they want to be banned, the whole purpose is to be famous. And what is the purpose of being famous? That your books should get read. So it's a circle, so it's a gimmick. There are so many other gimmicks that writers use to get, to get famous, only because they want to be read. So it all comes back to being read. That is very important.
No, but the writing is a very serious business. It's a social commitment also, and you can't take it so lightly. I want to be banned because I can become famous. It's not, such a business, I think. So we should see it in a little more serious way. It can give a wrong message to the society. It's a negative. Agree. It's a negative thing.
Yeah. So. I agree that it's a serious business, but that's what exactly we need to do. See, I also feel, along with the writers, like we writers, we write and we have some urge. Readership also has to be built. People also need to know how to read. See, what happens is when our literacy rate is so low and the readership is so low, there is no real training in how to read the books. So that's why it happens. I said it in the manner that, well, there is a space for everyone. But we also need to know how to read seriously, how to write seriously. Automatically it will happen. When it will happen? When the society really goes ahead. When will society go ahead? When there is a freedom. Freedom to think, freedom to write, freedom to educate yourself, freedom to grow. When that happens, all these things will fall into place. Otherwise, there will be always conflicts. Like we are talking about censorship. What needs to be done? Okay, so within censorship, you fight it out with yourself, you struggle. But what about it outside censorship? Is there anyone to protect the writers? When that will happen? You can't expect government to protect when government itself is censoring you. So then writers need to come together. There should be some organization. There should be some support. But when will that happen? When there is such a strong thinking process in the society. When that happens, we can look forward to that. Tomorrow somebody may write something very provocative and book is banned, like that Murugan. There were a lot of writers actually behind him. But what they could do? He has to just say, give up, I will give up the writing. See, there should be support system in the society. He should feel, yes, the society is behind me. There are some people behind me. And only then it can progress. There will be always struggle. There have been struggle even in our whole history of humankind. So we cannot be afraid of struggle. Struggle is the one which takes you towards the change in the society. So it will always happen.
While subscribing to Sania's view, it's something. To be popular overnight, some writers are switching to some sensationalism. This is not also good because they are surging controversy all the time. Get popular instantly. This is also should be taken in view.
No, just
that is the question. Sorry. A question is, Anaka said is, a writer should have a commitment. There is no doubt about it. While writing alone, what matters? Not the public, or not who are going to oppose or accept you. All secondary. You should have a definite vision of time. You should be sure of what you are writing. That's most important. And by luck or ill luck, if one's book gets banned, if it becomes famous, if he sold much more than he usually sold, then that's a slightly different matter. It has nothing to do with your creativity. This is what I...
Yeah, just to add to this, we just said that Murugan, he had to stop writing and there was no support system. But if somebody wants to write what he feels like writing, he will have to take responsibility for that. We should be able to meet the consequences. See, Taslima Nasri, She wrote something and it was banned there, and she had to leave the country. She had to come to India. She had to face a lot of problems. But she is fighting. I am not getting into the quality of her writing, but she has stood for what she wrote. And that is a great quality every writer should have. If I write something, I can't say that other people should come and support me. If I have to leave this place, I have to leave. That's what's my belief.
I just want to take Kanaka's that writing is definitely a serious business. But that writing to reach readers also has to be taken seriously. What's the point of your writing if it's not going to reach the readers? So for that to happen, there are many gimmicks that many writers are using because publishers are not supporting them. So banning, I'm not propagating banning, but if, like he says, if that happens, it definitely helps the book. Of course, but nobody will. But she's saying but this is also. Everybody is using, like some authors buy these and make themselves bestsellers. Now the books are sold. So what I'm saying is, writing, the whole process of writing is over. Now how does that book reach the market? Because there are thousands and thousands of writers. You go to a bookstore, you see these books lined. I went to a sale where there are these thousands of books thrown on the floor, selling for 50 rupees and 25. You can find your copy there, lying there. You don't want that to happen. You want that copy to reach the reader. So you have to, today, we're at a stage where you have to take up some kind of a campaign for your book to reach someone. I'm not saying that the book has to be banned. I'm saying that you have to take up. So if some writers have tried it, well, it's their choice. That's what I'm saying.
As Sanya said, certainly India is a very liberal country, and Runam Krutva Ghrutam Pibet. So we all believe in that, and Charvaka, we believed in that. So certainly, but still I feel, for banning, let my work get banned and let me become famous. That is, they come in a different genre altogether, I believe. So that's the only.
Is it now?
If once you acquire the technique, writing also I consider, it's if you acquire the technique, you can easily, reach that point.
Now I think it is a sensibility versus sensationalism. What do you say about that? Sensibility versus sensationalism. So is it the present and is it necessary, or writers, how they how they are encountering with this present condition?
Well, sensibility definitely in writing, because we are tackling sensitive issues, we are handling characters who are sensitive. So maintaining a balance is very important. Sensationalism very often goes in the genre that you are using. For example, if somebody is writing erotica, you cannot say you can't write sensational, because erotica could be a part of a social theme. So that is combining sensationalism with sensibility. So it depends on what genre you're choosing. And yeah, you want to say something else?
Manjari, it should be like that way, but I think it's not. It is completely different. And mainly writers, they only concentrate on sensationalism.
No. Sensationalism is a gimmick. That's
because
something we don't.
They are including that into every now and this, even to the social genre, whatever they write, they completely just because for the
publicity.
And everything.
No, I don't subscribe to that. Yeah.
No. I'm not talking about you. Yeah. I'm talking about the present writing.
Yeah, but then
writing.
That is again because they want to reach the readers. And that's what I'm saying. It's all boiling down to too many books and very few readers. So they want to reach readers, they want to raise their readership level, and they're using all kinds of gimmicks. That is a part of it. Yeah.
I don't think the writers, real writers, they are. Thing is that those writers who are suffering from insecurity, those suffering from that identity crisis, then only they switch over to sensationalism. Otherwise, sensitivity is sufficient to make you be a good reader. Yes. Writers should avoid gimmicks also. Yes. Anonymity and neutrality. It should be this should be the religion of a writer, to me. It depends.
No, I think there are several kinds of writing.
Exactly.
I believe.
Even I think so.
There are several kinds of writing. For example, a full, huge stadium will not be enough for Rahman's music. For a man like Bhimsen Joshi's concert, this hall is enough.
My basic question
And you
is,
cannot, because of so many lakhs of people listen to Rahman, you cannot simply say he is much greater than Bhimsen Joshi.
can't.
That's also true.
Yeah.
That is the case with writing also.
Yeah.
There may be a writer who is very little read, but in the course of next 300 or 400 years, he will be more read than others, you know. So, what kind of writing
Yeah.
and how committed you are to your writing,
Yeah.
that's most important. That's what I say.
So for each writer, that writer is real. I don't know how you can say a real writer and a fake writer. I don't make this distinction. You know, I think for each person, that writing process is a very serious process. To spend so many months in one room writing a novel just for the heck of being famous, I don't think there are other ways of being famous. I think when you're writing something, you're writing with a true purpose in mind. What you do after that is an individual choice. But each writer, when he writes, whether it's a poem or a novel, it's a very serious attempt at trying to convey something, I think.
Thank you. Now I think we can take only one question.
Can I ask you
Because
something?
it's time for tea break.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk two things about the censorship. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. I want to get to know is two things about the censorship. As a writer, where the censorship, the Lakshman Rekha lies as a writer. And second one is about Perumal Murugan issue. Second one, that's the controversy about his book broke out. He came out, oh, I am going to quit my writing. As a writer, is it a good thing or is it a fight it out? If he brazen it out, it would have been an inspiration for all writers. But he did, oh, I am going to quit writing. Is it a good thing for as a writer? What is your perspective?
Yes, I have understood your question. This may not be the best response available to him. He could have reacted in some other ways also. But at that moment, probably he thought it to be the best way of opposing the caste-based and that fanatic people, probably. He could have reacted in some other ways also. Best thing would have been if you would have communicated, he would have mobilized, mass mobilization was there, then mobilizing fellow writers in his support. He could have done a lot.
What was this question? I didn't get it. It's over? We can wind up.
Thank you very much. I should particularly thank all my fellow writers for this very engaging debate. And also, I take this opportunity to thank, on behalf of all other panelists here, to thank Sive for giving us this great opportunity to discuss a very important issue pertaining to literature. Thank you all.